Hey, I'm Skip. Welcome to the AV Geeks Lunchtime streaming show. I had to turn off the speaker on the computer that is like right there that I use for monitoring, making sure that I have that I am actually broadcasting to the places that I'm saying that I'm broadcasting. And yes. Anyways, let's see. We are still licking our wounds from the YouTube copyright hammer coming down on us, like at the beginning of the show. It's not Mystery Science Theater's fault. It is the robots at YouTube's fault that they said, "Hey, that public domain thing that you have, that we used, we're claiming copyright on that," and that's just not true. It's 100% untrue. And Mystery Science Theater folks, I have a good working relationship with them, and they don't have control over the knee-jerk robots. So, anyways, that's not what we're talking about today. Today we're talking about the fact that there's so many twos in the date. Although there'll be more twos coming up. And also, I guess, this is a thing. Here, watch and learn.
Many years ago, when the United States was still a new country, people lived in log houses they had built in the forest. On cold winter evenings, children often would ask their mother to tell a story. "Yes, tell a story, please." What kinds of stories did Mother tell? Well, because these people lived in the woods, they saw many wild animals, and they told many tales about wild animals. The story we're going to hear is something like many old stories told in pioneer cabins. It's called A Tale of the Groundhog's Shadow. Now, this is not a true story, but we like to pretend that wild animals can talk and think even when we know they can't. Our story takes place in the deep woods on a cold day in February. Do you see that big hollow log? It's the winter home of a raccoon. Let's look inside. Raccoon is just waking up from a deep sleep. He hasn't been asleep for just one night. He's been asleep all winter since the first deep snow fell. That was months ago. Now he's awake, and he's thinking, what fun it will be to play in the warm spring sunshine. Yes, Raccoon was expecting to find warm spring weather. But what does he find? Winter. Wherever he looks, there is snow, and he's cold. What should he do? Should he go back to sleep? Or should he stay awake till spring really comes? Then he has an idea. Maybe Badger will know if spring is on the way. Now, Raccoon knows a likely place to find Badger. And sure enough, there's Badger at his favorite old stump, hunting for something to eat. It's a little risky to bother Badger when he's eating. But Raccoon does want to know if spring is coming. But Badger isn't glad to see him. Not at all. And he doesn't want Raccoon hunting around his stump. "Hold on, Badger," says Raccoon. "Keep your old stump. I wasn't trying to steal your food. I only wanted food." But Raccoon does want food. He hasn't had anything to eat all winter, not since last fall, when he stuffed himself with food to last all winter long. Now he's hungry. Raccoon eats both plants and animals. Of course, with snow on the ground, there aren't any tender young plants to eat. But he has found some insects. He has stuck his paw in among them, and now he's eating them. But Raccoon would like to eat some fresh green shoots. When will spring be here? Maybe Beaver knows. But where is he? Is he down here in his home? No. Is he in the water? It's so hard to see him. There he is. "Oh, Beaver," says Raccoon, "wait a minute. I want to talk to you." Beaver would rather just keep on swimming and hunting for water plants to eat. But he decides that maybe Raccoon has something interesting to tell him. So he goes over to Raccoon and says, "What do you want?" "I want to know when spring will be here." "Don't ask me. Go find Groundhog. He's the one that can tell." "Where can I find him?" "Well, now, I haven't seen him all winter. You'll just have to hunt for his hole." It won't be easy to find Groundhog's hole. Raccoon wonders if he'll ever find out whether spring is nearly here. "What's the matter with that Raccoon?" thinks Beaver. "Doesn't he know how on a certain day in February, Groundhog can tell by his shadow whether spring is nearly here?" Not far away, Porcupine is climbing his favorite tree. He's been down looking for food, too, but all he found was snow. All the animals are waiting for spring. Raccoon is still looking for Groundhog's hole, and Porcupine is climbing higher and higher. Here comes Raccoon. And do you know where he is? Do you know who's high up in this tree? Of course, Porcupine. Now he's reached the branch where he likes to stay. He can eat the bark of the tree, and he can sleep here and wait for spring. Raccoon has seen Porcupine, and he's calling to him. There's no answer. Raccoon calls louder, but Porcupine just pretends he doesn't hear, so Raccoon will go away and not bother him. Raccoon doesn't like it a bit, but Porcupine just lies there. So Raccoon goes away, feeling that nobody wants to help him, and wishing he had never stepped out of his nice warm log. But wait, there's another animal here. Raccoon can smell it. A skunk, of course, but he's very cross, and he says to Raccoon, "Go away and leave me alone." This makes Raccoon very angry, and the first thing you know, they're having a big argument. About what? About whether or not Skunk is going to tell Raccoon where Groundhog lives. It's a silly argument, isn't it? "I don't know what all the fuss is about," says Skunk. "Spring is bound to come. It does every year. But if you have to see Groundhog, he lives under a big stump just beyond—" But Raccoon hurries away without waiting for Skunk to finish. He's so sure he knows the way. So sure until suddenly he realizes he's lost, and he wishes he had not been so impatient with Skunk. There's nothing for Raccoon to do but keep hunting. Now here's the stump where Groundhog lives. Skunk knew where it was. But look at Raccoon going right past it. Fortunately, this is the day in February for Groundhog to wake up and come out of his hole. He sees Raccoon and calls him. "Where are you?" says Raccoon. "Over here," says Groundhog. Have you come to find out if spring is here? Yes, please tell me, please. Very well, says Groundhog. I'll look for my shadow. If I see it, there will be 6 more weeks of cold winter weather. But if I don't see it, then spring may be here. Oh, I hope you don't see it. No shadow. So, if we look around us, we should see the first signs of spring. And sure enough, here are some new green leaves poking up through the melting snow. And here is a robin, a sure sign of spring. Well, says Groundhog, I'll go back down into my hole for a short nap of just a few days. And I'll go look for a place to build a nest, says Robin. Thank you, Groundhog, says Raccoon. Now it won't be long before I can have a good spring dinner. And that's the end of our Tale of the Groundhog Shadow. A story like the ones that people told long ago. Yet even today, people pretend that the groundhog can tell if spring is here. That's because it's fun to pretend. Would you like to pretend that you're living in the long ago when people told stories about animals? Could you make up your own story about some of the animals we've seen? Why don't you try it?
So I held off showing that. We scanned it the middle of last year, and I was like, nope, I'm not going to show it yet. I'm going to wait until Groundhog's Day. Was it worth it? Obviously, that was made for kids, the whole fable aspect of it. You show it, you talk a little bit about the science, but you also talk more about the kind of story aspect of it, and you know, the kids draw pictures and write their own stories, etc. Just like you did. You seem to have a very colorful interpretation of the raccoon and the beaver character, not so much the groundhog. All right, let's learn about some groundwater. Woohoo!
Water, released from clouds in the form of rain, continues to follow the pull of gravity long after it strikes the ground. A considerable part of all precipitation seeps slowly downward through soil and rock to form groundwater. This water reappears in little springs, or bursts out from underground channels like this, or is thrown to great heights by geysers. Groundwater also feeds our wells. Wells are low during dry weather, but following heavy rains, and even before the ground becomes saturated, the water in the well rises since the groundwater level fluctuates with the rainfall. Groundwater is almost universally present near the surface. The upper level of saturation with groundwater is shown in this steep cut. The upper surface of this saturated zone is called the water table. It rises after heavy rains. The water table is considerably below the crests of hills, but it approximates the surface in swamps and marshes, and actually intersects permanent rivers above their beds. Lacking further rainfall, the groundwater, by constant, slow percolation, returns to a more nearly even contour. In this simplified diagram, Rain is indicated as falling on porous sandstone which crops out east of the Black Hills. The part that becomes groundwater flows slowly downward and eastward, imprisoned under pressure between impervious beds of shale. When this reservoir is tapped, the groundwater is forced to the surface and surges out in an artesian flow. Artesian wells are common sources of water in the eastern portions of the Great Plains area. Much more commonly, groundwater seeps naturally from fractured or porous rocks, or when the amount of water is sufficient to cause a noticeable flow, it issues as a spring. And here is a hot spring. In such cases, the groundwater probably came in contact with hot rocks deep within the earth. The water issuing from some hot springs dissolves minerals which are carried to the surface and deposited in the form of terraces. Tiny plants that thrive at these high temperatures cause the brilliant color effects of these terraces. These deposits may remain after the springs have ceased their flow. Here they are being quarried. The rock is known as travertine, and it will be used as ornamental wall finish. Some hot springs merely show escaping gases, but others evidence greater agitation. Or the groundwater may be thrown out in the majestic form of a full-fledged geyser. Geysers consist of large underground fissure tubes, as shown by the simplified drawing. This tube fills with water. The geyser owes its activity to the contact of the groundwater with hot rocks far underground. Leading from this region to the surface is a fissure, usually constricted at some points, and with one or more enlarged spaces. Because of the great pressure at the bottom, boiling and formation of steam may actually take place first here, well toward the surface. This expels water from the top, lessens pressure throughout the tube, and then the superheated water at the bottom immediately turns to steam. An eruption results. Let us watch the daisy geyser in action. Finally, a period of rest until more steam is generated far below. And now, approximately every hour, winter and summer, its more famous neighbor, Old Faithful. Nearby, in the well-known Norris Basin, there is a veritable family of small but active geysers. Although these hot waters are effective in dissolving minerals, huge underground chambers like these at Carlsbad, New Mexico, were formed by the action of cold groundwater. This sketch of carving caverns from solid limestone shows that the process is both intricate and fascinating. Taking advantage of every fissure or crack, the slightly acid groundwater begins to dissolve limestone. Cavern formation progresses slowly but persistently through centuries on centuries. Groundwater, seeping out from the roof into the cavern air, loses its carbon dioxide and consequently its ability to hold minerals in solution. These minerals, which the groundwater has acquired by dissolving the limestone, are deposited in icicle-like pendants called stalactites. These may be matched by pinnacles called stalagmites, which rise from the floor. In Carlsbad caverns, such formations abound in striking and varied array, roof formations merging with those built up from the floor. We find layers of carbonate rock deposited in fascinating and grotesque forms. Here we see diverging stalactites, which are called staghorns. At some places we find slender stalactites resembling needles. In other passages, confused masses called moss, and in some rooms, sheets resembling draperies. The deposits around this cavern pool are further evidence of the mineral-carrying power of the groundwater. In the Mammoth Cave of Kentucky, streams flow in huge underground channels, some of them extending for several miles. The underground passages have many levels, since they are separated by layers of insoluble rock. When limestone layers have been eroded extensively, the necessary side supports may fall, or the roof itself may disintegrate and collapse. From such cave-ins, there result steep-walled depressions called sinkholes. In some places, these fill with water. When the roof of a cave collapses, a section of more durable or better supported rock may remain to form a natural bridge. Further evidence that groundwater may deposit as well as carry away minerals is found in the petrified forest of Arizona. Here we see giant trees that were buried on an ancient floodplain. Subsequently, their wood fibers were replaced by minerals carried in solution by groundwater. The smallest details of structure are retained, thus giving the appearance of wood, though their original cellulose is now replaced by silica. Likewise, the skeletons of many ancient invertebrate animals were petrified by the replacement action of groundwater, and vertebrate remains, such as this dinosaur skull, also have been replaced through groundwater activity. In somewhat the same manner as cave deposits, small rock cavities or geodes may be partially filled with crystals.
Coleslaw. I'm trying to chew here. 1 second. So, one thing I wanted you to notice is we know the voice, right? Of, why isn't this one? I can't get it to come up. Anyways, so that voice sounds really familiar, right? And that was not Encyclopedia Britannica film. That was University of Chicago, and it was ERPI who Encyclopedia Britannica purchased all their films. And they were actually, Encyclopedia Britannica at that time was actually owned by University of Chicago. And the narrator was James Brill, our good pal James Brill. So, there you go. All right. Somebody mentioned Happy Groundwater Day, Ground Coffee Day. And coffee is one of the ways that we accept payment or donations. And you can buy us coffee at ko-fi.com/abgeeks. Right behind us on the telecine, I have a film called Evening Activity, which we have not seen. So let's watch it and see what it's about. Love it. A non-narrative film, and everybody starts talking about sodas, pops. Coincidentally, I am drinking Dr. Brown's cream soda. I'm a big cream soda or root beer fan, and I'll drink a sarsaparilla if I run across one, or a birch beer. Down here. So when I was up north, I think we called it pop. Down here, everybody started talking about Coca-Cola. Can you get me a Coca-Cola? Even though Pepsi was kind of dominant in this area, Coca-Cola or an RC, which is west of here, RC. There's a part of that RC Appalachian belt. Anyways, if I had to pick a caffeinated soda, Dr. Pepper is my choice. Just in case you're wondering. Okay, what do we got here? It's 2-2. It's 2-2-2-2. So let's give 2 cheers for Charlie.
Oh, sure. Well, I'm sorry, Sam, but this is one date I can't break. Would you have 5 minutes right now? Fine, I'll be right over. Edith, can you dig up Sam's file? I handed out a couple of nights ago. Maybe it's in my basket.
Sam and George Cave, Partnership for Life and Disability. Put your hat down on your forehead. You know where you're going.
Ah, it's hot. I'll pull it down when I get there. Did Ralph deliver the presents?
Uh-huh. They're nice. But there ought to be 3.
That's right. They always were the 3 cheers. Phone Ralph Miller to have another one ready when I go by. Engraved.
Edith, sign me out. I'll be back in half an hour.
And I'll be back about 5.
Flowers?
For Mrs. Bryce and Mrs. Young.
Uh-uh.
Hello, John. Got my corsages?
Hiya, Charlie. We're just finishing up. You know how it is at graduation time. We're loaded. Why don't you go over and get yourself decorated while you wait?
Good idea. Hello, Chick. How's your dad today?
Well, you know.
Smells almost as nice as you look. Tell him I'll drop by the house Sunday, huh?
Here you are, Charlie. You know, come to think about it, isn't it kind of thanks to you that Marion Bryce is graduating today? Mrs. Bryce ought to be giving you a corsage.
It'll look much better on her. Thanks, John. Goodbye, Chick.
Roy Martin Benson. Congratulations, Leroy. Marion Louise Bryce. Congratulations, Marion.
Yes, congratulations, Marion. You've done well. You'll do well in college. You're a lucky girl. I wonder if you know just how lucky. That this proud moment is the outcome of a different kind of moment. A moment when your father could have said, well, I don't know. But he said something else. It was as close as that. Funny how fast 4 years go by. Your father was starting to build the house you live in now. The costs had piled up a little worse than he expected, and he was carrying the job along by borrowing on his life insurance. He was glad to get the check, of course, and he told me that he ought to be all right now if nothing happened. Well, you know me with business. Those words, if nothing happens, are like a red flag. So I said maybe I ought to cover that possibility with a health and accident policy. He said the light company had a group plan, and I felt better. That is, I felt better right then. But your father kept popping back into my mind and the gamble he was taking. So one Saturday, I told my golf gang to get somebody to fill in for me, and I drove out to Pershing Manor to get it off my chest.
Here you are, Helen.
Thanks, Charlie.
Here, have a Coke, Harry.
Well, thanks, Charlie. I appreciate you driving all the way out here, Charlie, but doggone it, we're just up to our necks in this place. I honestly haven't got a spare dollar for more insurance.
You've got the place insured against fire, haven't you?
Oh, good Lord, yes.
Got it insured against your income stopping?
Huh?
Harry, you're 36 years old. In the rest of your life, if you keep healthy, you'll probably earn, almost $200,000. That's about 15 times the value of the house. Harry, your health is your wealth.
Didn't Harry tell you, Charlie? The light company has a plan that covers him.
That's why I'm out here on a Saturday. It's a good plan as far as it goes. It goes about 26 weeks. What I'm worried about is what happens if you get really sick. Sick or hurt so bad that it runs into a year or 2 years or maybe more.
Never have yet, Charlie.
Uh-huh. But nobody's vaccinated against it. These people weren't. They were just as surprised as you and I would be to find they were laid up for months and years. And these are only one page full. My company sends a regular check every month to nearly 7,000 people who are totally and permanently disabled. And those checks will come in every month for life.
I'm lucky they could afford it. That kind of insurance is out of my class.
Don't squeal before you're hurt. You don't even know what it costs. And maybe you're in for a surprise. We write the Family Security Plan. I guess we're about the only company that does it. It's sort of tailor-made. We put in only the items that you really need. Harry, disability always stacks a lot of extra expenses on top of your regular household obligations, particularly in those first few weeks. And remember this. It's tough enough to be tied to a bed even if you're rich. But it's a lot tougher if you have to lie there month after month thinking about how the expenses are eating up everything you own. Worry is about the worst medicine there is. And peace of mind is one of the best. What I want you to think about is a plan that will pay you income benefits up to $300 a month. Money to live on while you're unable to work because of an accident. Or you're laid up at home or in a hospital with a sickness. Even for life. Besides that, we can pay you additional benefits of $15 a day for your hospital room and board, plus allowances for hospital fees, surgery, and so on. Harry, look around you. What would happen to this house and young Marion's education and everything else you value in life if you had to meet those expenses without any money coming in? And it can happen, Harry. Every year, my company sends checks to over 500,000 people who get sick or hurt. We pay out more than $1 million every week.
Well, Harry's really very healthy for a man who works indoors, Charlie. He's hardly sick a day.
It's a fact, Charlie. I don't think I've drawn more than 2 weeks' benefits all the time I've been with the light company.
That's why I drove all the way out here now. You can't get this protection when you're laid up. You can only apply for it when you're in good health. Say, by the way, where's your bedroom going to be?
Here, through this doorway.
Look, Harry, suppose you were lying in bed in there. The door was open just a crack after the doctor left. And through the crack, you heard him telling Helen that you wouldn't ever work again. I want you folks to have protection and peace of mind against disaster. You know, it's funny how something so valuable should be so easy to get. All you have to do is twist my arm.
What do you think, Helen?
Well,
Say, how's the saw cut doing? No chance of tetanus, is there? Have another Coke. Nothing like it for lockjaw. Say, the blanket really keeps him cold.
Well, Marion, it's no news to you that he finished the house. And like your mother said, he stayed very healthy for an indoor man. And then one night, one of the tubes in the kitchen light went dim. Nothing particularly big about that. Nothing really dangerous, you'd think.
There we are, dear. I think I better go right on home because Mary...
Those 26 weeks of his group plan went by like so many hours. Another 26 weeks, another. And within a couple of weeks of a fourth stretch, with the money still pouring out in a steady stream. But some other money was coming in. So the house was still there, and it was still theirs. You were still in school. And your father could still give you a carefree grin and an unworried hug when you came in his room. And all because of that so fleeting moment when he could have said, well, but he didn't. And so somebody else is able to say,
I think we're going to be proud of you in college. Gosh, and still they come. I guess every girl in town's going to be at that graduation dance tonight. Joan Melinda Young.
she looks pretty as a picture. Congratulations, Joan. You're another lucky girl. But then you always have been. I guess you get it from your father. Howard was a great one for long chances, but he usually was lucky. Take that outdoor furniture ID he started when he got back from the war. Sunk every dime of his terminal pay in it. And it looked for the first year like he was ahead of his time for our town. But he soon had it humming along. And it was well established even 4 years ago when you started high school. Like I say, he was lucky. Of course, it helped to be a good salesman and be willing to work like three men that needed a meal. He'd always had one little fault. But I guess you knew about that.
I'll call you when it gets here.
Bye.
Well, that'll take care of the installment on the freezer.
You're quite a salesman, Howard.
Oh, anybody can look like a good salesman if he has a strong product. Sit down and relax, Charlie. Hey, that was a nice talk you gave at the men's club Sunday.
Well, thanks, Howard.
Yeah, but I know you want to talk about insurance today. Well,
Now that you mention it, I did kind of have it way in the back of my mind.
mm-hmm.
Let's see, you converted your GI insurance to $5,000, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I've been wondering if it's enough now that...
Charlie, you're wasting your time. I'm in the hock up to my eyes. Every month it's the same old scramble. Payments on the house, payments on the car, installments on the new furniture, the freezer, the range, and that fancy new clothes dryer that Laurie had to have.
Howard, all those gadgets, do they keep increasing in value the longer you own them?
Of course not, you dope. They're depreciating.
Mm-hmm. And if you should die suddenly, wouldn't all those unpaid gadgets turn into liabilities right around Laurie's neck? Howard, there's just one more thing you ought to buy on the installment plan. Joni's starting high school next week. You ought to make the down payment that'll protect her education.
How?
By assuring Laurie and Joan an income every month, until Joan at least finishes high school.
Oh, Laurie could probably keep the business running well enough anyway.
Yeah, by working the same kind of hours you do, or worse. Howard, the most valuable thing a man can leave his children is their mother's time. How much money have you got in the bank?
Well, that's a nervy question.
You wouldn't mind my asking it if you had a good answer, and I'm asking it. How much have you got saved to pay off all those debts and assure an income for Laurie and Joan?
You know me, Charlie. Easy come, easy go. Heck, it would take me years to save enough of a chunk to make it worthwhile.
You can create a $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 estate in 5 minutes, Howard.
Yeah?
And it'll be ready when it's most needed. As income for Laurie and Joan if you should die suddenly.
And if I have bad luck and keep on living?
Then the deposits will be waiting to provide an income for you and Laurie when you retire.
I thought you were selling life insurance. Now you sound like a savings bank.
Life insurance, savings, a lot the same thing, but with one great big difference. Ordinary savings, you put away a few dollars at a time, and if you live long enough, you hope to finally save a fair chunk. We reverse the process. We create the chunk first. We set up your whole estate for one down payment and let you buy it on the installment plan. You know my company, Howard. One of the strongest. Here, I'll let the figures tell you how we'll provide security. Whether you die too soon or live too long. Now, let's take this.
Okay. You sign right there.
Well, Charlie, you're quite a salesman.
Anybody can look like a salesman if he has a strong product. You know, it's funny. One drop of ink, a doctor's okay, and all of a sudden, Joni's a rich man's daughter.
Yeah, if I walk in front of a truck or something.
Yeah, and if you live to be an old man, she won't have to support you.
That'll be a long time away. Well, Charlie, I ought to congratulate you. You know, it isn't every day that you get a chance to sign up a guy that's both healthy and lucky.
You'll be glad someday. You want to bet?
Charlie, give me a hand.
Put out those cigarettes, you fools! Put out those cigarettes!
You remembering the same thing I am, Charlie?
Well, you lived through it. You thinking maybe you wasted your premiums, Howard?
You know the last thing I thought of before the smoke got me? I thought, maybe my luck's run out. Then I thought, maybe I'm still lucky because no matter what happens to me in the next 2 minutes, Joni and her mother will be taken care of. Wouldn't be like Paul Rush.
Well, Howard, Laurie, you certainly have a right to be proud of Joni today.
I wonder what happened to Marion. I told her to be here in a few minutes.
Oh,
Well,
she'll be along.
big day
Probably
for them.
with
They'll be
the
up. Here
kids.
they come now.
Congratulations, boy.
I look so grown up, I thought I was going to cry. I thought I was. They were just so hard. Oh, here they are. Oh, darling. Oh, you look so wonderful. I look at her all grown up. Oh, lovely.
Hello, Mr. Ellen. Mother says I can wear her corsage tonight. Do you mind?
Why, I certainly don't. And I've got something else for you.
Oh,
And for Joan.
oh Charlie. Thank you. Aren't they beautiful? Oh, gosh. Oh, Charlie. Thank you so much.
Hey, I'm certainly getting my money's worth in a hurry here.
Say, folks, let's get a picture. Charlie, I'd like to get one of you with one of the girls on each side of you. How about it, huh? Joni, honey, turn around now. Come on. Marion, squeeze in a little bit and show off your new watches. We'll call the picture 3 Cheers for Charlie.
Oh, Daddy, why did you have to say that?
Is this what you're thinking about?
To Carol, with love. Oh, that's wonderful. What are we waiting for? Come on, Mr. Allen, let's give it to her now.
What about the picture?
Come on with us. Carol ought to be in the picture anyway.
Carol ought to be in the picture anyway. She always was in the picture, right in the middle of it. Always the prettiest and the smartest and the one you knew you could count on. Paul Rush was proud of her as all get out, and proud of the nice friends she brought to the house. Paul was a painter and a darn good one. He'd made up his mind when he was 6 years old. That's what he wanted to be, and that's what he was. He traveled around a lot, wherever the work was. But no matter where he happened to be, he'd draw his time and light out for home whenever there was a job within kissing distance of Mrs. Rush and little Carol and the boys. The way I met him, I thought I was answering his inquiry about a health and accident policy. But it was his wife that sent in the coupon. Seemed the magazine also had an article about the increase in disabilities from heart disease and cancer in men around Paul's age. To Paul, those were far-off things that happened to other people, not to him. But he was willing to talk, and after a while, I think he realized that his home and wife and kids, the rent and the clothes and food for the table, all were at the mercy of that good health he was so proud of. If his body stopped working, everything stopped. Finally, he wanted to know how much protection he could get and what it would cost him. Lifetime income, hospitalization, doctor's bills, the works. Well, as fate would have it, about 2 minutes before we'd have finished up, his boss drove in with a week's time cards and invoices to check. Paul folded up the application, said he'd mail it in. But as it turned out, well, you know how it is. I tried to see him several times after that, but he was always working out of town or at lodge or a union meeting or something. 2 years went by. The 3 Cheers were juniors in high school now. In fact, that's where they got their name, from their fancy cheerleading. They were really darn good. Paul had been down south somewhere for a couple of months on a job, and then one day he came home. Fate plays strange tricks. Paul had always known that strong body of his might be crippled in an accident. He'd never expected to be crippled by sickness. He'd heard of arthritis, of course, but he thought it meant old people with stiff joints. I had no trouble calling on him anymore. He was always in now. That fall, they moved. I kept dropping around the house whenever I could because I liked him and that nice little family. But there was nothing much I could do. I'd missed my chance when I got careless and let Paul put off until tomorrow what he should have done that day. I felt as helpless as he was. One thing about Paul, he had courage. The night they first took him away, he'd said, "I'll beat this. I'll be home. Everything will be the same again." Now he'd come home. But it wasn't the same. And it never would be, as long as he lived. But typical of Paul, the first thing he thought wasn't about himself. He said, "Where can Carol do her homework and see her friends?" Well, Mrs. Rush finally had to tell him. Carol didn't have to do homework anymore, and she had no time for friends. Because there finally had been something I could do. I'd gone down to City Hall and gotten Carol a work permit.
Surprise! Oh, Carol, it's a real surprise party with presents even. Hey, Mr. Allen.
Oh.
For me? But...
Well, if it isn't for you, Miller's Engravers made a terrible mistake.
See? It's just like ours. Well, looks like my wrist graduated. Even if my head didn't.
Hey, let's get that picture, huh?
So this is where you've been hiding out all year.
Come on now, folks. Get lined up for the picture, please.
Hey, Carol, why don't you come with us to the graduation ball? Duke's girl got the measles and he's stag.
I've got 20 corsages to make between now and 8 o'clock, or else 20 girls like you are going to be awful mad at 20 boys like you.
Folks, please.
Your boss can get somebody for tonight.
That's what I'm afraid of. Besides, I can use the overtime.
Well, but please, come on, Death and Zachariah, get lined up.
Okay, kids, Pop's had it.
All right, now hold it. That's good.
Gosh, I've left us double parked. Come on, kid. Are you sure you won't come along? You go along. I'll catch up with you. Sometime. Come on, Joe.
Bye, Carol.
Thanks again, Mr. Allen. You've always been so wonderful to me.
I know, Carol. I know.
Hey, Charlie, what's keeping you?
You're a wonderful girl, Carol. And everybody's so proud of you. And you will catch up with them sometime. Good night.
Hey, came out fine. Got a pencil, Charlie? It's pretty good of you. It's great at the 3 cheers. Sure good to see them back together again. Well, that'll be your receipt for the watches.
Three cheers for Charlie. That's 1 cheer too many.
How's that? Oh, I see what you mean. But that's not all I'm seeing. I'm seeing my Joni in there. Tired, scared, and lonely. And carrying too much on her young shoulders.
But it isn't Joan. And it never will be now.
No.
No matter what happens.
That's right. And Joni will be all right. I just want you to know that, well, I'm grateful. Good night, Charlie.
They
They say you can't win 'em all. But I'm sorry it had to be you. And maybe you will catch up with them sometime. Lord knows you've got the spirit and the strength and the courage. And in the meantime, your father has that lifetime income protection I promised him. Only I'm not giving it to him. You are. And it's costing too much. Too much. I'm sorry, Carol. But next time I'll try a little harder. And maybe some other Carol will have a better chance. Good night, youngster.
I can check that gear in a minute, so don't touch anything, okay? Hey! Get down from there! Now! Hey! Turn it over! What if it bumped that control by accident? You'd be mincemeat by now. What have I told you? You don't work on equipment when the engine's running.
Well, I told him not to touch anything. All right, I guess I wasn't thinking.
You weren't thinking? You mean you'll work on engines and machinery and not think of your own personal safety? Here. Shake hands with danger.
Shake hands with danger. Meet a man you ought to know. I used to laugh at safety. Now they call me Three-Fingered Joe. I was young and feisty, never did things by the book. Just let me get my toolbox and I'll take myself a look. I climbed up on a dozier with my mechanic's pride. Said, you can keep it running, friend, while I poke around inside. Shake hands with danger, meet a guy you ought to know. I used to laugh at safety, now they call me Three-Fingered Joe. Although I learned a lesson, I forgot it soon enough. The nicks and burns and scratches showed the young ones I was tough. Till another morning I was grinding on some steel. My other hand got careless and fed my skin into the wheel. Shake hands with danger, step right up and say hello. Grinding wheels and metal are what made me Three-Fingered Joe. I've seen mechanics burning and I've seen them take a fall just to save themselves a minute. I've seen them lose it all. I've watched them courting trouble, seen them take a chance and lose. They get careless for a moment and spend a lifetime with the blues. Shake hands with danger. some friends I used to know. Compared to them, I'm lucky to be just Three-Finger Joe.
So, is not having long-term disability insurance shaking hands with danger? If you listen to that last film, 2 cheers for Charlie. 2 bittersweet cheers for Charlie is what they should have called it. Wow, they laid on the melodrama there. It was so good. And so it took a while for the payoff, and of course there was some action, some drama in there with the crazy car accident. And, you know, that's where you thought for sure that's where it's going to happen. That's where it's all going to fall apart. But no, it is some debilitating thing at the end where Charlie failed. He failed. Thanks for joining us today. I love showing these films to you, even though you don't necessarily love watching them. We saw a wide variety of different things today, and that's a delight in that. It's like going to a bunch of encyclopedias and just closing your eyes and just pulling a book, and then looking at a page randomly and just deep diving into it. I love that. If you love it, hit like, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification button, all that stuff. You can come up with different ways to say that you like AV Geeks. You can also buy us coffee, which we actually spent today on buying delicious corned beef and pastrami sandwiches for myself and my staff of assistants, Kayshawn, who you've probably seen, and Ryan, who's a former intern who's come to work for us, scanning some Cornet films, because we got a bunch of those. So there's a local deli that opened up that we got some delicious, thick sandwiches. So thank you for that. And that's where I got the cream soda. So anyways, join us tomorrow. Tomorrow's Thursday. And everybody have a good rest of your Wednesday. And we will see you soon. Those of you expecting horrible weather, I hope you keep your power and your internet, and you can join us, or at least can keep warm and bundled, and we will see you soon. Everybody take care.